Welcome back to Inner Peace Better Health with your host, Saima. Today, we are diving into a conversation about resilience, transformation, and what it really takes to reclaim your life. Our guest, Massimo Rigotti, knows his journey intimately. A serial entrepreneur, speaker, addiction recovery advocate, and author of Flavors of Confidence. He has lived through the depths of addiction and emerged on the other side stronger than ever. He's also the creator of the Sober Method, a framework that helps others break free from addiction and step into a life of confidence, clarity, and purpose. So let's get into it. Massimo, your story is one of incredible transformation for sure. So can you take us back? What was the breaking point that made you realize you had to change?
Oh, well, I tell you, it just was that everything completely fell apart for me, but it wasn't enough to recognize that change was needed. And I just had a conversation with someone this morning that really provided me with some new clarity on what the drive really was there at the end to completely make a life altering change, because I had been an addict for so many years, over a decade, that making that change and being homeless at the time, it still wasn't enough to crawl over the line and say, I don't want this anymore. And it was really the fear of loss of someone who was caring deeply for me, that maybe she would not continue to try to see me on a path to improve myself, that became the final catalyst that pushed me over the edge. I mean, I was already making progress, but that one event, one conversation where I got the feeling that maybe Samantha wouldn't continue to help me much longer, that made me recognize I probably should do something with my life and stand up sober. And from that moment I had that thought, I realize now that I never have wanted a drink since.
That's really noteworthy. So many people, struggle with the cycle of addiction. Can you share the biggest misconception people have about it?
I think the biggest misconception that everyone has about addiction is it that you can just like turn it off. I get that all the time. Well, why didn't you just stop? And you can't just stop what is happening to you if you don't understand the underlying nature of the struggle that you're having. That that's really where we all need to do work in finding what is the catalyst for the pain that we're in, that we're trying to mask with the substances that we're taking. And that's a huge challenge. Most people don't want to take the time to look inward. And oftentimes people who become sober and remain sober for a time with other, like a 12-step program, for instance, don't always do the hard work that's required to remain sober for the rest of their life and truly put it behind them. Because in order to do that, you really have to do a deep reflection and find out what is most troubling you.
That's going to surely be beneficial for all our listeners out there. So, was there a specific moment of clarity that shifted everything for you, or was it a slow process?
It really was a slow process, but then it happened all at once, if that makes any sense. So, uh, I'd had a really pretty successful life, as you mentioned on the intro for me. I was a serial entrepreneur, or still am. I'd had many companies that I had started, and to good success. Yet I was drinking all the time, and eventually I was doing drugs as well. And that it was amazing that I held it all together. As a matter of fact, there are some people that when my first book came out were stunned to find out that I had been an alcoholic at the time that they were doing business with me. That so I managed to hide it quite well, but I was in a lot of internal pain and struggle. So as things were kind of unwinding and my marriage fell apart, I lost all my belongings. I'm now find myself homeless, but that didn't stop me from drinking. I was still, trying to, figure things out and understand why I was doing that. And that was driven back in childhood, from a deep rooted fear of loss, that occurred when I was 8 years old. And it's interesting that after recognizing that, it still wasn't enough to say, okay, you know what the problem is. Now let's walk you over the line. As I still had to work through myself and understand how I reacted to others around me and fix what was broken. And the broken piece for me, and it's something I still work on almost every day, is that recognizing that I have the strength to walk in my own life in my own shoes without the support of others. It's great to have the support of others, but to know that I'm okay if somebody walks out of my life. And that fear of abandonment that struck me through most of my life was masked by drugs and alcohol, and it wasn't healthy. But once I recognized that, then the turnaround became very quickly. So it was like you could see that as maybe a slow build, but then it was very quick once it reached its endpoint. As I said, it was just a decision one morning where I said, you know what, I'm not going to drink anymore, and that was that.
That completely makes sense, Massimo. Now, your book is called Flavors of Confidence. So, can you share that? What does real confidence look like to you, and how does it differ from the false confidence many people chase?
Yeah, forced confidence is what I call in my book fake confidence because everybody can see completely through those that are
Mm-hmm.
putting on the mask of confidence versus those that are truly confident. So, Flavors of Confidence actually originated from a piece of artwork that Samantha Thomas gave me, and Samantha was kind of my partner in ensuring that I got healthy when I was at my lowest. And we had met in 2014, and I was at the absolute peak of my addiction. And she provided me this self portrait, and it looks like a fully functioning, smooth picture of her. But when you come up close to it, you notice that the picture is made up of tens of thousands of small little dots on the canvas. And so the way that she explained it to me is that we're all made up of pieces of a functional whole, like a whole being. And it's only when we have the strength within ourselves to bring everything together are we seen as being fully confident. So when you step into the frame of that of being confident, it's being able to hold yourself together in a way that the whole world sees you as confident, even though you might have small struggles here and there in your person. So that's where it frames up. And I would define confidence, true confidence, is the ability to be in any situation and not fear anything, to be able to walk into a room and not worry that anyone may not talk to you, and just interact with the world as your true self. And that's a very big struggle. I think that very few people ever reach that point. I really love that I've reached that point because it makes life so much easier.
That's indeed remarkable. Now, addiction often stems from deep insecurity or trauma. So, how can someone start rebuilding self trust after years of destructive habits?
The first thing that has to happen is really understanding where things come from. And what's highly interesting to me and those that I work with in their own journeys is that so many people have relatively no idea why they are the way they are. In other words, why they react the way they do to certain stimulus, what triggers them, makes them want to drink. They've completely lost touch of where the originating fact is. And oftentimes when addicts are trying to find themselves to sobriety, they look at these triggers as I'm just going to avoid this particular trigger. I'm going to avoid this situation. I'm going to not do these things that might, in fact, make me use substances. The challenge with that is that it doesn't actually fix the problem. And that's why the SOBER method, which stands for Stoic, Observe, Behavior, Execute, and Restore, then the first step is Stoicism, which is a deep reflection upon oneself. And if you take the time to look within to truly see what ails you, then you can do the hard work to fix that item or work through that item and realize that it no longer has any impact on you. So many people that struggle with addiction have childhood trauma, and in many cases they don't completely remember the trauma, and so the defense mechanism that they formed over years and years of covering it up is just they have these triggers that make them want to seek comfort, and that comfort and to forget about the trauma that occurred is in substance, alcohol, and drug use. And by seeing what it is and realizing that it no longer has an impact, it no longer should be scary to them, you can put it then completely behind you and walk forward into a sober life.
Mm-hmm. So, can you share one simple, actionable habit from your method that anyone can apply even if they're not in recovery?
Absolutely. I'll share one of my favorites, Marcus Aurelius' quote, which is boiled down often to "the obstacle is the way." It comes from a longer verse in Meditations, but the point of the verse is the fact that doing the hard thing is the path. The thing that stands in your way of achieving a goal is ultimately the thing that you should do to achieve your goal. So when you see an obstacle, don't go around it. Don't try to find another way. Do the hard thing and walk through it. Because if you can begin to lay that down in your daily life and make that your habit is to do the difficult work, you will find success after success, because the things that you find very challenging now will become less and less challenging, and then life becomes easier and easier. It's very interesting how it frames up, but I see this time and time again uh, with people who follow some of the advice in the sober method and have no addiction challenges whatsoever. It really is a holistic methodology to improve anyone's well-being, to create very strong confidence in oneself and one's abilities.
That's indeed actionable. Now, many people in recovery struggle with finding purpose. So, how did you go from addiction to becoming a successful entrepreneur and speaker?
It one step at a time, right? Small measurable
Mm-hmm.
steps is the thing that everyone is probably quite sick of hearing from me by now, because I say it constantly. You don't eat a whale in one sitting at a table or eat an elephant. You have to take small steps. So really, it's goal setting, and this is something that is in the execute step of the sober method. It's lining out at least 2 years in advance where you see yourself and what you want to achieve, and then just come back from that. Okay, well, in order to do that, what do I have to achieve at 1 year? What do I have to achieve at 6 months? What do I have to achieve at 3 months? Until you back yourself into, okay, I'm going to have to do this every day in order to achieve this goal in 2 years. Now I look longer because that's just my own personal belief. I'm a 10-year planner. I already know what I want to be doing 10 years from now, and I break my day into doing that and ensuring that I make each one of those steps. And the largest challenge that most people face when they start laying out this type of this level of planning, because 2 years is a long time for a lot of people. Hey, for some people I've worked with, a week is a long time for them. So I mean, you have to bring this back into some sort of perspective and realize that everyone and meet them where they are, because a week out might be a challenge, but it follows the same principle. Then just look at what you have to do every day in order to achieve that. And it's, again, quite interesting is that the consistency is where you will make the gains on this, much more so than setting the goal and saying, I'm going to do it. And then, like, it's crunch time and you try to fit everything in. That's not how you'll make progress in anything. It's very simply do a little every day. Even if every day it's 10 minutes to do something, well, eventually it'll become 30 minutes, and then it'll become an hour, because the 10 minutes won't be so burdensome. But once you lay down the habit, it becomes very easy to achieve your goals.
That's noteworthy. So, how does your experience with addiction make you a stronger leader and mentor today?
That's a really good question. I think that what it does. is it allows me to have a much deeper understanding of myself, which in turn has allowed me to see myself in others and recognize struggles that they are going through. Living on the street provided me with another set of skills that most people would never have, because it's survival and you have to learn how to read people. And are they safe? Are they a threat? Can you count on them to help you to do something because I want to eat tonight? Those types of abilities to form small groups and work together. I already had good leadership qualities, but what I didn't have is good empathy. I wasn't empathetic enough to be a truly inspiring leader. And I credit that to homelessness. It really knocked any sort of entitlement or feeling like I deserved better out of me. And now I just approach life as it is handed to me day by day, and knowing that things happen, we'll see it through and we'll get to the other side. And so when people come to me with their challenges today, I'm able to listen to them. And instead of trying to solve the problem for them, I find myself asking them questions that let them lead themselves to the answer, which is much more powerful. And it allows them to then feel like they're invested in their own idea for their own success, which is, and then watching it play out is just absolutely the greatest gift that I get today.
That's inspiring, Massimo. Now, if someone listening is feeling lost in the recovery, what's your message to them?
What's the what?
What's your message to them? What's your message to them?
Oh, my message. Well, if you're feeling lost today, uh, sit down for just a minute, take a few deep breaths, and think about give yourselves a tiny bit of grace, and then think about the things that you can be thankful for. When I was at my lowest, I was thinking, well, at least I still have my mind. At least I still have use of all my faculties. I can still walk. I can still talk. I can still think. And what could I do if I applied these things? And stepping forward into that. Now I give inspirational messages on all my social channels at Sober Method on a daily basis, and I enjoy interacting with anybody who comments and subscribes. So I'm always happy to be there to provide a leg up and help people find some inspiration in their daily life.
I'm sure that's going to be beneficial for all our listeners out there. Now, sobriety is often framed as giving something up, but what do people actually gain when they commit to a sober life?
What do they gain? Well, the gain is huge because I think the greatest thing I gained was actually being able to interact with people and recognize that the world was greater than myself. I think there's a lot of selfishness that exists in being uh a drunk or being high all the time, because you are taking your true self away from others. Uh, I mean, everybody has a vibrant story and something to provide this world. And when you are drunk or high, you're taking that gift that could be given to others. It's I don't know. It's something that's very very interesting to me, and quite frankly, I'm still framing up in my mind as I'm talking right now just exactly what that means to me. But I think that for me, it's just being in the moment and recognizing that, remembering everything and truly being there with people and not thinking about what was next. And in that case, where am I going to get my next drink? Where am I going to get my next line of cocaine? Where those were thoughts that would run through, and I wouldn't actually be present with anybody I was there. And I missed out time with family that is no longer with me because I was being selfish.
Okay. So, looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of addiction recovery?
My vision of the future is one where it is guided by each individual. And that is the greatness of this program. And I'm so happy that I hear it all the time. Is that sober methods very customized. We're giving you a framework to work within, and we're going to heal one person at a time in a very different way, because what provides my confidence and abilities in this world is very different from every listener out there. But at the same time, the framework is the same. And the reason it's different is because we've all experienced different things. We've all come from different places. And what impacts me negatively may not impact someone else negatively. My reaction to it is going to be different than someone else's reaction to it. So my pain will not equal someone else's pain. So that's why the 12-step programs out there, I find, don't always, they're one size fit all. It's like, you will do it this way, you will come to this many meetings, you will do it. And over time, because I tried that approach, it didn't work for me. That's why I created my own program. I found that if I could wire things in such a way that the individual person that's struggling with addiction is able to work through their own challenge, wire up their own confidence, see how things work in their own environment, then it builds something that has the resilience to last a lifetime. And so I would like to see a continuation of, if it's not the sober method, then it's a continuation of new things and new ways that focus on individuality in the restoration of self. Because if we continue with one size fit all programs, we're leaving behind 30-40% of addicts out there that will never reach sobriety.
That's indeed remarkable. Massimo, this has been an incredibly raw and powerful conversation. If there's one thing that stands out, it's that sobriety isn't just about quitting, it's about stepping into your true self with clarity, purpose, and confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it.
Mhm. Thank you. And for everyone listening, if you're struggling, know this, you're not alone. And if you're looking for a proven path forward, be sure to check out the sober method. It just might change everything. If this episode resonated with you, keep it to yourself, share it with a review, and most importantly, take action. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and remember, you have the power to rewrite your story. I'm